name's Luke.
And my name's Danny.
From Thunder.
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 Thunder, thunder, thunder.
What are we on, mate?
Loud TV, apparently.
That's Loud TV.
Loud
Very
TV.
loud. It's good.
Loud TV.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think. Yeah, possibly. This less about. Less anger. Maybe more reflection. I think that's the thing about COVID and lockdown and the pandemic was people had a lot more opportunity to a lot more time on their own to sort of think about their place in the world, what was going on around them, how much they couldn't interact with other people. All of those things kind of come into play on the new album. So it's more reflective.
I think it's the quiet ones that challenge me the best, the most, I think is probably the best way to say it. I grew up singing rock songs, so, the loud, noisy ones I can sing all day, easy. The quiet ones, where you have to be that much more restrained and much more in control, are the ones that I struggle with, and there are two on this album. Unraveling is one, which I'm particularly pleased with because it was quite hard. But the other one is Just a Grifter, which is probably the quietest song. And if I remember, I sang that twice. I think the first time I sang it. Usually I can sing a song once and it's done. In one session, it will be finished. But with Just a Grifter, we did it and we were happy. And then towards the end of the session, I said to Luke, if there's time at the end, I'd like to have another go at that song because I think there's some bits that I can do better. And we did, and it was. So it's sometimes it's just a case of singing the song enough and getting used to singing in a very different way that's not necessarily natural. But it's all part of evolving. And I think for me, that's what's so fascinating about being in a band, because you never stop learning and evolving your craft, your talent, your skill, whatever you want to call it. I mean, Luke writes the songs. He presents us with the songs, and for me, it's an absolute miracle that after this many years, he can still surprise me when he sends us a new song over. I just listen to it and think, whoa, I never saw that coming. And that's a miracle for me. It's a complete revelation. The fact that he can still do it after all this time is fantastic to me, and that's what keeps it exciting and engaging to continue to make music. The fact that you have to kind of challenge yourself to get better in order to sometimes rise to the challenge, because some of them are not easy to do.
Well, it's interesting for me because the songs are written obviously and originally demoed in my home studio, so all of the kind of difficulty for me, if you like, on a musical level, is kind of dealt with by the time we get into the studio usually. So I've had a good chance to get to know the songs. It's different for the rest of the guys in the band because they sent the songs and then we get into the studio, and then for them that's the first time they've played it. I've already played it God knows how many times, so I'm a little bit ahead of the curve in that sense. So yeah, I mean obviously there's things. If you write songs and you create music, you hear things in your head and you try and get that onto the not tape anymore or onto the vinyl, whatever it is, into the digital zone. But you're trying to capture what's in your head, what your imagination is hearing.
Do you always get it, or do you sometimes have to change what you're doing?
No, sometimes
because you can't do it.
Yeah, so sometimes the weird thing is that sometimes you get some of the way down the road with writing a song and you think it's not quite right. I'm going to come back to that, and you put it to one side. And then you'll come back and you find it's in the wrong key, it's the wrong tempo. There'll be something fundamentally wrong with it. I mean, quite a common one for me, there's a song on this album called Is Anybody Out There, which was written on the guitar first. I wasn't really feeling it, and I wasn't sure why I wasn't feeling it. And I thought, well, it should be good. Everything's kind of there. And then I sat at the piano and played it at the piano, and I thought, it should be a piano song. That's why I'm not feeling it. So little things like that do occur. But for me, I suppose it's a big picture thing for me. Once I'm together, then after that, I'm looking at everything and starting to think, well, are we heading? That's more the producer's hat. But I'm thinking, well, is this arranged right? You know, what's the bass part? Should the drums be doing that? You know, what we're going to do with backing vocals. So I see it like one big canvas really. So yeah, I mean, and I never quite know how it's going to end up. So that for me is the joy as well of trying maybe a 5-part backing vocal section. Let's try that. Oh, that sounds like shit. We won't do that again. Let's try this, or let's try a saxophone, or let's try an accordion, or whatever. You know, that's my job really. That's the bit I bring to it, if you like. We grew up in a time where bands kind of double albums weren't very rare. You know, Physical Graffiti, Quadrophenia, the White Albums. You say there were lots and lots of great double albums from when we were kind of kids. And so for us, the fact it's a double album, it's neat. It's not a problem for us though. I mean, when some people go double album, made a double. Nobody makes double albums in 2022, but obviously we do. So as long as the songs, from our point of view, as long as the 16 songs make for a balanced album, and as long as the quality is good throughout the whole thing, then that's the only justification it needs, really.
We didn't set out to make a double album. It was never a conscious decision to make a double album at the beginning. It turned into a double album because we had such a lot of good material, and we struggled to work out which ones to not put on the record. If you look at a regular single album, it's 11, 12 songs maybe for us, and we'd recorded 20. And of the 20, that's a very hard decision. How do you leave 8 or 9 songs off of the record when you've got this many good songs? And they fit together very well. So when you start sort of assessing the songs, almost like on a song-by-song basis and how they fit together, you come to the conclusion that, well, this one would have been on a single album, for sure. But this one probably wouldn't fit on a single album, but would work if it was a double album, because maybe it's a bit wider than what we would do, a bit different to what we would normally do. And then by the time you've added it all up, you say to yourself, well, this is almost like a double album has written itself. It's made itself. These songs have justified their places. But they wouldn't go on a single album. So it has to be a double album. And that's, in the end, the decision makes itself. And it was a good realisation. I mean, we came to that conclusion probably about halfway, 2/3 of the way through making the record. But we decided at the very end that it would only be a double album if, once we'd finished, we felt like the songs justified doing it. And once we got to the end, we did feel that way. So here we are.
Like all the double albums that I mentioned earlier, I think they all have a variety of styles and approaches, and I think that's what we have on this album, and maybe that's one of the reasons why we all felt good about it being 16. We were very, very lucky in England with our timing, and we are very, very unlucky with our timing in America, because at the point we were due to go there and tour, we had a situation where we had an album that had sold 250,000 copies, and we had the single that was all over MTV, and then all of a sudden we were booked to go on a tour with, I think it was David Lee Roth and Cinderella, and then a couple of weeks before we were due to go, the tour was cancelled because of poor ticket sales. And our American manager rang us and he said, listen, everything's changed here. There's this grunge. And we said, what's grunge? And he said, all of the radio formats have changed. They're now not playing kind of traditional rock and roll. A lot of them are playing grunge, this music out of Seattle, and it's a whole movement. And it's kind of, everything's focused there now. And even our label, which was Geffen at the time. Geffen, I think, actually bought Sub Pop, which is the Seattle label, and they had Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins and all these bands. So that became their focus. And because of that, they kind of withdrew any financial tour support, which was difficult because in America it's a big country, it costs a lot of money to go there and play, and so we never went.
We played 5 shows.
Yeah. Oh, we did, yeah.
We were supposed to play a show for a magazine in Los Angeles, and we went to Canada and played there, and when we finished we ended up on the East Coast, but we had a week to kill before we were going to do this show for the magazine in Los Angeles. So we asked our agent if they would book some shows for us, just anywhere we could play, somewhere that had a regular audience. That we didn't need to sell tickets. People just went there because they went. And we ended up playing 5 shows, 2 on the East Coast and 3 on the West Coast. And it was very strange because we would play the show, and at the end of the show, we had pretty much the whole audience in the dressing room saying, "Who are you? Where can I buy your album? I love you." And we just sat there with our head in our hands thinking, this is so ironic that, you know, we can't get arrested in America, and yet if we had a chance to play, it might be completely different. But we never got that chance to play, so, you know, it's what it is. I've said it before, if, you know, Kurt Cobain, you know, he ruined our lives. If I ever get to meet him, I'll kill him. We sent the guy, the animator, the video maker, we sent him the lyrics and the song, but we didn't tell him what the song was about. He interpreted the lyrics and the song, and he came up with almost exactly the same vision that we had for the video without any discussion. He just got it straight away. When Luke wrote the song is based loosely around the fact that we do this charity motorcycle ride in America most years, not for the last couple of years. And we go to all these amazing places, we ride all over the place on motorcycles. We do it for charity, like I said, and we raise money for kids. And it's great. And we get to go do this, and we do a good thing at the same time, so it's win-win. We get to see all these amazing places. And a lot of the visuals within the lyrics, it kind of brings up this kind of panoramic view of heading west in America with the mountains and the snow caps and the pump jacks and the oil drills and all that kind of stuff. That's all inspired by it. And the guy just took it all out of the lyrics and put it all into the video. And we sat and watched the video and said, this is perfect. But we had no discussion with him. He just did it. It was so good.
The fact that it's kind of little guys made out of felt and little motorcycle, and it's like it's quite childlike. But I think that's kind of really good because obviously
it's the opposite of what a rock band would
do.
do.
Rock music is like macho, leather, studs, in your face. And the fact it's this little guy who's made out of cloth on a little bike, and it's nice. It gives it a kind of sense of humour, which I think is important.
It must be a very concern with young children, with social media. Yeah, I think it's good, but it's also bad. And I think for young people to feel that they're only valid if they get positivity via social media, that's a strange concept. That's a very sad concept, and I think it's very dangerous. You know, you get so many stories of people who have harmed themselves or committed suicide because they feel they're not worthy, because somehow they've been told they're not worthy by some social media trolls. You know, this is very disturbing. Personally, you know, I use social media as a tool. You know, it's a way for us to engage with our fans. But I've said before, you know, I know nobody's interested in what I had for breakfast, and I don't care what they had either. So for me, it's not a problem because it doesn't harm my life in any way. It doesn't affect my life in any way. But I do wonder where it's going to go, because a whole generation of people, young people, who are going to grow up in a very different way than the way we grew up.
It also gives a voice to lots of crazy people, and that's very worrying. I mean, the whole of the Brexit thing in the UK was terrifying because all of these kind of people with these awful kind of racist, unpleasant views kind of came out of the woodwork.
Thank you, Boris.
Yeah. Fuck you, Boris. Fuck you.
You cretin.
And so, you know, that was like a little example of how dangerous it is. And if you look at what's going on in Ukraine right now, the Russian news feed is, whoa, that's really scary what they're saying. And we live in, the genie is out of the bottle. It's too late. We can't put it back in. We've got to live with it now. So how the human race starts to deal with it is going to be what defines whether or not the human race survives. I think it's that important.
It's a big test. Big test.